was early November 2021, and I was in a bit of a funk. Launching a book will do that to you. My inner storyteller was in overdrive, playing stories that were causing me to doubt myself. Who did I think I was writing this book? No one is going to find it helpful. There's nothing of value in the book. You know, the classic inner storyteller, inner critic chatter. You've probably faced some of this chatter in your own life. Maybe not about writing a book. It could be something completely different, but the tone is familiar all the same. And to its credit, my inner storyteller is very creative, very skilled and convincing. Yours probably is too. To convince me that I really was rubbish. Maybe I've been watching too much Ted Lasso. No, that's impossible to do. My inner storyteller was relying on very specific, true stories about other authors with recent book launches. And my inner storyteller wasn't only telling me stories of other people's books that were wildly successful, though it had plenty of those, legitimate celebrities or thought leaders or authors much more established than myself, whose books were wildly successful, selling millions of copies. An obvious story choice when it comes to making someone feel inadequate, comparing them to someone who's doing it so much better. But my inner storyteller was also telling me stories of wildly successful authors, people more successful than me, whose book launches or their book wasn't that successful. In essence, it was saying, well, if they can't do it, why on earth can you do it? Now that is some advanced self-storytelling sabotage, right? And in essence, I was feeling pretty miserable, or at the very least uninspired, and my inner storyteller was entirely to blame. So let's unpack this for a second. First of all, what is it anyway? That's a tactic of our inner storyteller, to sound so confident, but to fail to define the thing that it appears to be so confident about. What is a successful book launch to me? Have I considered that? Have you considered what the actual definitions are of the phrases your inner storyteller throws around? Turns out, in this case, I actually have considered it. I really just want as many people as possible to recognize the power their stories have over them and to choose better stories if they're looking for change in their lives. And more than just as many, I actually care about the one person who this message meant something to. Now, knowing that helps, but it isn't enough. What all of us need are stories that show us we aren't what our inner storyteller is telling us we are. We need to retell ourselves the stories, the true stories that remind us that though our inner storyteller may not be fully wrong, right? It's also not entirely right. That early November morning when my inner storyteller was giving me so much trouble, throwing all of these stories at me, I went to an exercise class. And while I was in the class, the instructor, who follows me on Instagram, we've become friends, announced to the class, entirely unprompted, that I had taught her so much about the stories she was telling herself and how to change them and how much it has changed her life as a result. Now let me pause here, because while that was an extremely beautiful moment and truly was a bit overwhelming for me to hear that said so explicitly, there's more to it. There's more I want you to remember. This isn't about the comment itself. Instead, it's about seeing that moment in that exercise class as a very important story. The next time my inner storyteller tries to convince me that I don't have what it takes, that I'm insignificant, that I don't have anything to give the world, shows me all these other authors, that people are better than me, or the people who are better than me have tried and failed, so who do I think I am? Who do you think you are? I will tell myself that story in the fitness class of someone to whom this message mattered. That's the key. If you have ever felt like you are not able to escape the wrath of your inner storyteller, let me assure you, the very same thing that gives a negative inner narrative power is what can take that power away. A story. If you catch a glimpse of a new story, one that says you are capable, one that shows you how strong you are, one that shows you how courageous or funny or likable or but whatever it is that you're struggling with, like I heard in that exercise class that day, put that story on repeat. Tell yourself that story. Your brain is telling you an old story. You can tell your brain the new one. And in doing so, rewrite your whole future.